there was a meeting in heaven about your life. Not a casual conversation, not a passing thought, but a deliberate, focused, intentional gathering about who you are, what you have been through, and what is about to happen next. The conclusion of that meeting was this message. Every word you are about to hear was decided before you pressed play. And the God who called that meeting is the same God who made sure that out of every distraction competing for your attention today, this is the one that found you. Beloved and chosen one, I need you to understand something before we go any further. You did not stumble onto this message. The algorithm did not randomly select you. There is no such thing as random in the economy of heaven. You are here because your name was spoken in a room you cannot see, and what was decided in that room is now being delivered to you through these words. So before you dismiss what you are feeling right now as coincidence, I want you to sit with it for just a moment. That pull in your chest, that quiet suspicion that something is shifting, that is not anxiety. That is recognition. There are signs that only chosen ones carry, and I want to name them now because I believe you have been carrying them alone for too long. The first sign is that your dreams have been getting clearer, not louder in a frightening way, but more specific, more vivid, more layered, with meaning that you sense even when you cannot fully explain. You wake up and the images stay with you longer than they used to. That is not your imagination working overtime. That is the language of heaven becoming more fluent in you. The second sign is a frustration that has no clean explanation. You are not an angry person. You have not become bitter. But there is a low, persistent ache in you that feels like you were built for something that has not yet been given the green light. You look at your life and you simply know that what you see is not the full picture. That frustration is not a character flaw. It is the pressure of a calling that is too large to be contained in the container it has been given so far. The third sign is that you have begun to feel out of place in rooms that used to feel comfortable. Friendships that once felt easy now feel hollow. Environments that once satisfied you now feel too small. You have not become arrogant. You have not lost your humility. What has happened is that you are being prepared for a different room, and your spirit already knows it even while your circumstances have not caught up. The discomfort is not rejection. It is repositioning. The fourth sign is that this is not the first time you have received a message like this. Something keeps finding you. A word, a song, a verse, a conversation, a video like this one, and every time it finds you, it carries the same thread. You were chosen. You are not forgotten. Something is coming. You have heard it so many times that part of you has started to wonder whether hearing it repeatedly is the universe mocking you or preparing you. Chosen one, it is preparing you. A message that keeps returning is not a taunt. It is a confirmation that what was promised has not been revoked. The fifth sign is the quietness. There is a stillness in you that you cannot fully account for. Even on the hardest days, underneath the weight and the weariness, there is something in you that has not broken, something that has not let go, something that persists without effort, almost as though it does not belong to you at all. As though it is being held in place by a hand stronger than yours. That quietness is not passivity. That is the presence of God anchoring you to something you have not fully seen yet. You are not falling apart. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are an earth angel in the final stretch of a preparation that heaven designed specifically for you. And I want you to hear this clearly. The length of the waiting is not evidence of absence. It is evidence of the size of what is coming. Heaven does not take its time on small things. This is not the edge of your breakthrough. You are already inside it. Before I take you deeper into what this season truly means, I want to pause for just a moment and share something with you. Something that I believe belongs in your hands, not at the end of this message, but right here at the beginning, because what you are about to walk through deserves every resource available to you. There is a scientific reason why chosen ones feel the way you feel. Researchers who study the brain have identified something remarkable. Individuals who carry a sense of deep calling, heightened intuition, and creative spiritual awareness tend to produce a specific kind of brainwave frequency. It is called gamma, and what the research shows is that chosen ones are born with a stronger natural capacity for gamma than the average person. But here is what happens. Long seasons of waiting, isolation, hardship, and inferred hope do not just affect your emotions. They physically suppress this frequency over time. The very wiring that makes you who you are gets quieted by the weight of what you have carried. A neuroscientist named Dr. James Rivers, who has spent over 30 years conducting research affiliated with MIT, discovered a way to restore this frequency without requiring years of meditation practice or any special skill at all. The tool he developed is called the Genius Wave. It is a 7-minute audio experience that gently guides your brain back into the gamma and theta states that are your natural inheritance as a chosen one. 7 minutes. That is all. If you feel something stir in you when I describe it, the link is already waiting for you in the pinned comment below. We will come back to this in much greater detail very soon. But I did not want to take you through everything that is about to unfold without first giving you that anchor. Now let me bring you back to where we were, because there is something deeper I need you to understand about this season you are in. Heaven does not call a meeting about ordinary transitions. Heaven does not gather on your behalf for minor adjustments. When God convenes a deliberate conversation about your life, it is because what is being prepared for you requires that kind of attention. And what I want you to understand is that the meeting did not begin today. It has been ongoing. Every year that felt like silence was not empty, it was attended. Every night you cried yourself to sleep, there was a witness in that room that you could not see. Every time you nearly walked away from the very thing you were called to, something in you held on, and that something was not your own strength alone. You are not just a person going through a hard season. You are an earth angel in active commission, and the commission does not look the way you expected it to look, because the assignment is larger than any path you could have planned for yourself. The places that felt like detours were not detours. They were specific roads that were chosen before you were born. Roads designed to carry you through territory that would later become your testimony and your authority. There are people who are waiting for you on the other side of this. People whose lives will not move forward until you step into what you are being called to. Heaven is not being slow. Heaven is being precise. And the precision with which your life has been arranged, including the hard parts, including the parts that make no sense, is the very thing that tells you this is not random. Random does not feel like this. Random does not carry the weight of meaning that you have been carrying. Only calling feels like this. I want to give you 3 steps you can begin right now, wherever you are, to align yourself with the frequency of what is already moving toward you. Step 1 is this. Bring to your mind one thing you are grateful for that did not happen. Not something that was given to you, but something that was withheld. A door that did not open, a relationship that did not work out, a path that closed before you got too far down it. Hold it gently and say quietly, "From that, I was protected." Step 2. Speak this statement aloud or in your heart. My time is not measured by clocks. It is measured by readiness. and I am more ready than I know. Step 3. Find a still place. Close your eyes and sit in 7 minutes of silence. No agenda, no performance. Simply be present to the God who called a meeting about you. Let whatever needs to rise in you, rise. Let whatever needs to settle, settle. This 7 minutes is your threshold into everything that follows. If something is stirring in you right now, something quiet and real, someone else out there is sitting in their own silence tonight, needing to feel exactly what you are feeling in this moment. If this message has landed somewhere tender in you, consider pressing like so. It travels to the next person who is ready to be found. And leave a word in the comments, any word at all. Because your presence here is not incidental, and neither is theirs. Share this with one person who has been carrying something heavy without telling anyone. Because sometimes the most sacred thing we can do is put the right words in the right hands. And if you have not yet subscribed, stay, because what comes next belongs to you too. There is also a donation link in the pinned comment below. And if you feel moved to pass something forward for the person who finds this message next, that is an act of a chosen one, who understands that what is given never leaves empty hands. Now, let what you just experienced in those 7 minutes carry you forward, because I promised you the full picture of what was briefly introduced, and it is time to give it to you. Picture a woman sitting at a kitchen table at 2 in the morning. The house is quiet. Everyone else is asleep. She is not scrolling her phone. She is not watching television. She is just sitting there with both hands wrapped around a cup of tea that has long gone cold, staring at nothing in particular, because the weight she is carrying does not have a name she can say out loud. She has prayed. She has believed. She has done everything right by every measure she knows. And still the thing she has been waiting for has not moved. She is not angry at God. She is past anger. She is in that quieter, more dangerous place where a person begins to wonder whether the promise was ever real to begin with. If you have ever sat at that table, this part of the message is for you. Earlier in this message, I briefly mentioned something. I told you about a specific frequency that chosen ones carry, about a neuroscientist whose research changed the way we understand what is happening inside the brain of someone who has been through exactly what you have been through. Now, I want to give you the full picture because you deserve more than a passing reference. You deserve to understand what is actually happening inside you, and why the tool I mentioned is not a distraction from the spiritual journey you are on. It is a companion to it. Here is where we begin. Chosen ones carry a specific frequency. This is not poetic language. This is documented in neuroscientific research. The brainwave state most associated with deep intuition, creative breakthrough, expanded awareness, and what many describe as spiritual clarity is called gamma. Gamma waves operate at the highest frequency of any brainwave state, and what researchers have found is that individuals who report strong spiritual sensitivity, a persistent sense of calling, and what can only be described as an inner knowing that runs deeper than logic, these individuals consistently show elevated gamma activity in their baseline brain function. You were wired this way from the beginning. The capacity for what you carry is not something you developed. It is something you were born with. But here is what the research also shows. Prolonged seasons of waiting, emotional isolation, grief that goes unnamed, hope that gets deferred again and again. These experiences do not just exhaust the heart. They physically alter the brain. The gamma frequency gets suppressed. The theta state, which is the brainwave range most associated with deep creativity, learning, memory consolidation, and what athletes and artists call being in the flow, that state becomes harder to access. Not because you have lost it, because The weight of what you have carried has buried it under layers of stress chemistry that your nervous system was never designed to hold this long. This is where Dr. James Rivers comes in. Dr. Rivers has spent over 30 years as a neuroscientist, conducting research affiliated with MIT and connected to studies originally developed in partnership with NASA. His work has focused on one central question: is there a simple, accessible way to restore the brain to its highest functional state without requiring years of meditation practice, without medication, without any specialized skill or background? What he discovered after decades of research is that the answer is yes, and the mechanism is something called brainwave entrainment. Here is how it works in plain language. Your brain has a documented tendency to synchronize with sound frequencies it is exposed to. When you introduce precisely calibrated audio tones, your brain does not just hear them, it begins to match them. This is not a theory. It is a measurable, reproducible neurological phenomenon that has been studied and confirmed across multiple fields of research. Dr. Rivers used this principle to develop a specific audio sequence, 7 minutes long, that guides the brain gently but precisely into the theta and gamma states that are your natural inheritance. 7 minutes. And I want to bring you back to the 7 minutes of silence you practiced at the end of the last section, because that was not accidental. That silence was a preparation. You were already practicing the posture that the genius wave will take you deeper into. What you touched in that stillness, the genius wave is designed to make that accessible to you every single day, consistently, without the effort of trying to manufacture the right mental state on your own. The tool is called the genius wave, and I want to tell you about someone who found it in a moment not unlike the one you may be in right now. Her name is Denise. She had been in ministry for 11 years, serving others, pouring out, and quietly running empty on the inside. She described herself as someone who prayed for everyone else's breakthroughs while privately wondering whether her own brain had simply stopped working the way it used to. She found the genius wave through a message similar to this one, started using it each morning for 7 minutes before she did anything else. And within 3 weeks, she told me something that stopped me in my tracks. She said, "I feel like the lights came back on in a room I forgot existed." Her creativity returned. Her sense of direction clarified, and the chronic low-grade anxiety that had followed her for 4 years quietly dissolved without her even noticing the exact moment it left. Denise is not an outlier. More than 19,000 people have now used the genius wave, and what comes back in the testimonies again and again is not just mental clarity, though that is there. It is the sense of returning to themselves, of coming back online, of being restored to the version of themselves that they knew was in there but could not reach. Now I want to speak to the part of you that is already doing the math, because I know how chosen ones think. And I know that right now some of you are weighing whether this is something you can justify. I want to say this plainly. $39 is not nothing. I am not going to pretend it is. If you are in a season where money is tight, where every decision requires careful thought, I see you and I am not going to minimize that. What I will say is this: the regular price of the Genius Wave is $49. Through the link in the pinned comment below, it is available today for $39. That is the only place that price exists. And it comes with a 90-day, 100% money-back guarantee. Not 30 days, 90 days. That is 3 full months to use it, live with it, and decide for yourself whether it belongs in your life. If it does not serve you, you ask for your money back and it is returned. No argument, no process, no hoops to jump through. I also need to say something important about where to find it. There are imitation products and misleading links that have circulated online using the name of this research. I want to be direct with you. The only place to access the genuine Genius Wave at the verified price is through the single link in the pinned comment below this video. Do not search for it elsewhere. Do not purchase it from any other source. The pinned comment is the only door I can stand behind with full confidence. And I want to be honest with you about one more thing. The $39 price and the current availability of this offer are both time-limited. This is not a sales tactic designed to manufacture urgency. The pricing structure is genuinely tied to a specific release window, and when that window closes, it closes. If something in you is saying yes, I want to encourage you to act on that yes today rather than returning to find the door has moved. But here is what I most want you to hear, underneath all of the practical information I have just given you. The Genius Wave is not a shortcut. It is not a replacement for the spiritual work that heaven has already been doing in you. It is a tool that meets you exactly where the science and the sacred overlap. The frequency it restores in you is the same frequency that makes you receptive to what God is already trying to show you. It does not create anything new in you. It clears the static so you can hear what was always being spoken. The woman at the kitchen table at 2 in the morning, sitting with her cold cup of tea and her unnamed weight, she does not need more willpower. She does not need a louder prayer. She needs her brain to come back online so that the signal heaven has been sending can finally land without interference. That is what 7 minutes a day was designed to do. And if that woman is you, or if she is someone you love, the link is in the pinned comment, and it is waiting. What God is about to do in your life is large enough to require every part of you, including the parts that have gone quiet under the weight of waiting. Let us make sure all of you is ready to receive it. You have been sitting with something for a long time now, and no one has given it a name. Not your closest friend, not the people who love you most, not even the voices you have trusted to speak into your life. They have tried. They have offered comfort and perspective, and the kinds of things people say when they do not quite know what to say. But the thing you are carrying has remained unnamed. And there is a particular kind of loneliness that lives in the space that's between what you feel and what anyone else has been able to articulate for you. I want to try to name it now. Not because I have something to prove, but because I believe you have waited long enough to hear someone say it correctly. There are 4 signs that people in a season like yours will recognize immediately, and I want to go through them slowly, because each one deserves more than a passing mention. The first sign is this: a sudden wave of sadness about the past that arrives without warning and without an obvious trigger. You are driving or washing dishes or lying in bed at the edge of sleep, and without any invitation, grief arrives. Not grief for a specific loss, but a broader, more diffuse sadness. A mourning for time. A quiet ache for the version of your life that you believed was coming but has not arrived yet. People around you may interpret this as depression, and perhaps some clinical voices have used that word with you. But what I want you to hear is that there is a difference between a mind that is broken and a spirit that is grieving. What you are feeling is not dysfunction. It is the honest emotional weight of a long preparation. And grief, when it belongs to a chosen one in a season of sacred waiting, is not evidence of lost faith. It is faith feeling the full cost of what it has been asked to carry. The second sign is that familiar places and people have begun to feel heavy and strange. The church you have attended for years, the friendships you built in an earlier chapter, the city you grew up in, or the routine you constructed with great care to hold your life together. Something has shifted in how all of it feels. Not because those things are bad, not because you have become too proud for ordinary life, but because you are no longer entirely the person who built those structures, and the new version of you does not fit the old architecture the way it once did. This is profoundly disorienting, and it is even more disorienting when no one around you can see it. You look the same from the outside. You show up, you participate, but inside, you are aware of a growing misalignment between where you are and where you are meant to be, and that awareness does not switch off simply because you cannot yet see the next place clearly. The third sign is a recurring dream, or a recurring image of an unopened door. It may not be literally a door in your dreams. It may be a hallway that ends in darkness, a threshold you approach but do not cross, a key you are holding but have not yet used. The specific imagery varies from person to person, but the underlying message is identical in every case. There is an entrance. It exists. It has your name on it. And the reason you have not walked through it yet is not because you are unworthy, and not because it was given to someone else. It is because the door opens from the inside of the appointed time, not from the outside of your impatience. Your spirit is showing you that door repeatedly because it wants you to stop searching for it in the wrong places and trust that when the moment arrives, you will know it with a certainty that requires no second guessing. The fourth sign is that the same essential message keeps reaching you through different channels. A verse you have read 100 times suddenly carries a different weight on the 101st reading. A stranger says something in passing that lands like a key turning in a lock. A song comes on at exactly the moment you needed those specific words. And then this message found you. Chosen one. When the same message arrives through multiple different messengers, that is not coincidence accumulating. That is confirmation compounding. Heaven does not repeat itself without purpose. The repetition is the signal. Pay attention to what keeps returning to you, because what keeps returning is what is true. Now I want to speak to the specific pains beneath these signs, because the signs themselves are one layer, and beneath them is the texture of daily life that no one really talks about openly. The insomnia is real. The nights where sleep will not come, not because your mind is racing with productive thoughts, but because there is a low hum of unresolved tension that your body cannot release. You lie there in the dark, and the silence feels louder than noise, and you cycle through the same questions without reaching any new answers. Where is the breakthrough? What am I missing? Did I misunderstand what I was promised? The insomnia of a chosen one in a waiting season is not a sleep disorder. It is the nervous system of a person who is carrying something significant and has not yet been given permission to set it down. The loneliness is real, and I want to be careful here, because your life may not be objectively lonely. You may have people around you. You may have community, family, a social life that looks full from the outside. But there is a specific kind of loneliness that comes from being spiritually aware in a room full of people who are not, and that loneliness does not dissolve in company. It is the loneliness of seeing what others do not see, of sensing what others do not sense, of carrying a knowing that you cannot fully share, because the people you love most do not yet have the framework to receive it. That loneliness is not a punishment. It is the necessary solitude of someone being prepared for a specific assignment that cannot be designed by committee. The feeling of being wronged is real. Perhaps there are specific situations, specific people, specific seasons where you were genuinely overlooked, passed over, or treated as less than what you are. I am not going to spiritualize away the genuine injustice of what some of you have experienced. What I want to offer alongside the acknowledgement of that pain is a reframe that I believe is true and that I believe you need. What looked like being overlooked from the human angle was actually something else entirely from the heavenly one. There is a critical distinction I need you to hear. There is a difference between being overlooked and being positioned. Overlooked means invisible, forgotten, left out of the count. Positioned means deliberately placed, intentionally set apart, strategically located for a purpose that has not yet been fully revealed. The people who overlooked you were not the architects of your story. They were incidental characters who did not have the clearance to see what was being built. Their inability to recognize you was never a verdict on your value. It was simply a limitation of their vision. You were not left behind. You were placed exactly where the preparation required you to be, and the placement, as uncomfortable and as isolating as it has felt, was not punishment. It was protection. There are doors you were not allowed to walk through, because what waited behind them would have diminished you. There are rooms you were not invited into, because the ceiling in those rooms was too low for what you are being built to carry. Every closed door, every unanswered application, every relationship that did not work out the way you planned, these were not rejections from heaven. They were redirections by heaven. And the difference between those two things is everything. Being positioned means that where you are right now, even in the middle of the waiting, even in the middle of the confusion, you are not outside of the plan. You are inside it, deeply, specifically, intentionally inside it. The plan did not lose track of you during the hard years. The plan was running precisely, even when nothing about your circumstances felt precise. Now, chosen one, I want you to receive what I am about to say, not with your mind, but with the part of you that already knows it is true. You have not been forgotten. You have not been abandoned. You have not been disqualified by your mistakes or your detours or the years that felt wasted. You are chosen, positioned, and protected by a God who has not taken his eyes off you for a single moment of this entire journey. If what I just named is something you have been carrying quietly, if these 4 signs live in your body and in your nights and in your unanswered prayers, I want to invite you to pause here for just a moment before we continue. What has just been named here belongs to more than you alone. All across the world, chosen ones are arriving at this same recognition at the same moment, and you are not sitting in this silence by yourself. If this message has seen you today in the way you needed to be seen, consider pressing like so that the next person who is ready to be named and found can receive what you just received. Leave a word in the comments, any word at all, as a way of marking that you were here, that you showed up for yourself today, and that you did not turn away from what was being offered. Share this with someone who has been searching for stillness in a noisy season and has not found it yet. And if you feel moved to leave a blessing in the pinned comment below, to pass something forward for the person who finds their way here next, that is the act of a chosen one who understands that grace was never meant to stop with them. Choose to remain in this community by subscribing, not as a platform action, but as a chosen one saying, I belong to this conversation, and I am not leaving before my season arrives. Type the word ready in the comments if what I just named is something you recognize in yourself. And now let me carry you forward, because recognizing where you are is only the beginning. What comes next is something I believe you have needed to hear for even longer. An honest accounting of what this season has cost you and why the price you paid was not wasted. Let us stay here for a moment before we move forward. I know the last section gave you something real, a name for what you have been carrying, a distinction between being overlooked and being positioned, a framework that reorders the story of your waiting into something that carries divine intention rather than divine neglect. And I do not want to rush past that. I want to honor it by doing something that spiritual content rarely does, and that is to sit honestly with what this season has actually taken from you before we say a single word about what it has given, because I think you deserve that. I think you have sat through enough messages that move too quickly to the redemption arc without first acknowledging the genuine cost of the road that led there. And I refuse to do that to you today. So before we talk about purpose, before we talk about positioning, before we talk about what God is about to do, I want to talk about what the waiting has taken. Not to dwell in grief without purpose, but because grief that is acknowledged becomes something you can carry consciously. Grief that is bypassed becomes something that quietly undermines everything built on top of it. So let us be honest. The waiting has taken relationships that could have been built. There are people you could have been closer to during these years if the weight of what you were carrying had not created a kind of invisible distance between you and almost everyone around you. Not because you are difficult to love, but because when a person is in the middle of a preparation they cannot fully explain, there is a limit to how available they can be for the ordinary rhythms of connection. You showed up. You tried. But a part of you was always somewhere else, always listening for something, always braced for the moment things would finally shift. And that interior preoccupation, as necessary as it was, meant that some of the people who wanted to be close to you found a door that was not quite fully open. Some of those people stopped knocking. Some of them drifted. Some of them found their way into deeper connection with others while you were in the middle of something they could not see or share. And you noticed every single one of those drifts. And you added the loneliness of each one to the weight you were already carrying. The waiting has taken a career that could have gone further by now. Not because you lacked ability, not because the talent was not there. It was there. It is there. But seasons of divine preparation do not always coordinate politely with the timelines that professional advancement requires. There were moments when you could have pushed harder, networked more aggressively, taken the risk that the person beside you took with full confidence while you held back. Not from fear exactly, but from a deep interior sense that what you were being prepared for was not in that direction, even when you could not yet see clearly what direction it actually was. And so the career moved slowly, or stalled, or pivoted in ways that confused the people watching you from the outside. And you watched others move past you on roads you could have taken. And you felt the particular sting of that passing, the question that follows it. Did I make the right call? Did I miss something? Am I simply behind? The waiting has taken your freedom to say your dreams out loud. This one lives quietly and does damage slowly. In the early years of your waiting, you talked about what you believed was coming. You shared the vision with people close to you, people you trusted, people you thought would hold it with you. And some of them did, but others responded in ways that taught you to be careful. A laugh that was too quick, a silence that was too long, a redirect into practical conversation that communicated, without saying a word, that what you were describing was not quite believable. And gradually, not all at once but in small retreats, you stopped saying the thing out loud. You kept it inside where it could not be questioned or diminished. And while that protected the dream from other people's doubt, it also meant you began to carry it in isolation. Dreams that are never spoken begin to feel less real over time, even to the one who holds them. And so the vision that was given to you by heaven became something you held privately and quietly, almost like something you were longer sure was real. Even though it never left you, the waiting has taken your faith in yourself, not your faith in God that has remained battered and stretched and tested but intact. Your faith in yourself, your confidence that your instincts can be trusted, your certainty that the things you sense about your calling are genuine and not simply the wishful thinking of a person who wants their life to mean more than the evidence currently suggests. You have second-guessed the voice inside you more times than you can count. You have wondered whether what you interpreted as divine leading was simply your own desire dressed up in spiritual language. You have sat with the fear that you are wrong about yourself, that the calling you sense is real, but not for you, that you are the one person who mistook proximity to something sacred for an invitation to participate in it. I want you to sit with all of that for a moment. Do not rush past it. Do not immediately reach for the reframe. Just let it be named because it is true, and it is yours, and it has been real. Now I want to bring you to a woman whose story I believe belongs in this space, not to resolve what you are feeling, but to show you that the shape of what you are carrying is not new, and that what looks like the end of a story has before now turned out to be something else entirely. Her name was Hannah. You find her in the first book of Samuel, in the opening chapters, and I want to take you only to the part of her story that lives in the darkness, because that is where you are, and that is where she is most honest company. Hannah wanted something that had not been given to her. Year after year, the thing she longed for did not come, and the pain of that absence was not private. It was visible. It was commented on. There was a woman in her household who reminded Hannah of her lack regularly, who used it as a point of comparison, who sharpened the absence into something that cut. The Bible says this happened year after year, not once, not twice. Year after year, the thing Hannah longed for was withheld, and year after year the pain of that withholding was rubbed raw by someone close enough to reach her. And what did Hannah do with that pain? She wept. The Bible does not soften this. She wept, and she would not eat. She sat at the table of a feast and could not bring herself to participate in celebration when everything inside her was in mourning. Her husband, who loved her, tried to comfort her with words that were well-meaning and entirely insufficient, as well-meaning words often are when grief has gone too deep for comfort to reach. He said, "Am I not better to you than 10 sons?" And the answer in Hannah's heart, which she did not say aloud, was that his love, real as it was, could not fill the specific shape of what she was missing. And then she went to the temple to pray, and even there she was misunderstood. Eli the priest watched her lips moving and her body shaking with the force of what she was releasing before God, and he did not see a woman in desperate, sincere prayer. He saw what looked to him like public intoxication. He accused her of being drunk. In the very place she had gone to pour out her soul, the person in spiritual authority over that space looked at her in her most vulnerable moment and got it completely wrong. I want to stay there for a moment, because I know that some of you have had that experience. You went to the place that was supposed to be safe, the church, the community, the spiritual leader, the trusted friend, and the response you received was not recognition. It was misinterpretation. Someone looked at the realness of what you were going through and assigned it the wrong name, called your grief weakness, called your sensitivity instability, called your spiritual hunger, something that needed to be managed rather than something that needed to be honored. And you left that encounter feeling more alone than when you arrived, because being misread by someone who should have been able to see you as a specific kind of wound that compounds the original pain. Hannah carried all of this, the years of waiting, the public visibility of her lack, the mockery of someone close to her, the inadequacy of even love to fill what was empty, the misunderstanding of the person who should have seen most clearly. She carried every layer of it, and she did not carry it because she was weak. She carried it because she was chosen. And the weight of what she carried was directly proportional to the size of what was being prepared on the other side of the waiting. I am not going to tell you how Hannah's story resolved in this section. That is not what this moment is for. This moment is for the acknowledgement that the road she walked was genuinely hard, that what it cost her was real, that the years of her waiting were not empty, but they were not easy either, and that she walked every one of them, just as you have walked yours. What has been taken from you during this season is not lost. But before we talk about restoration, you needed to hear someone say clearly that the taking was real, that the cost was real, that the years were real, and that the God who asked you to walk that road has not forgotten a single step of what it required from you. Not one step has gone unseen. Not one tear has fallen unwitnessed. Not one night has passed without a record being kept of what your faithfulness has cost. And the God who keeps that record is the same God who called a meeting in heaven about your life before this message ever began. There is a word in the ancient Hebrew language that your English Bible almost always translates as wait. And every time it gets translated that way, something essential is lost in the crossing. The word is kava, and if you have been told your whole life that what God requires of you in this season is simply to wait, to sit still, to be patient, to hold on, then I want to gently suggest that you have been given an incomplete picture of what is actually being asked of you, and more importantly, of what you have actually been doing all along. Kava does not mean to sit passively in a chair while time passes over you. The root of the word carries a physical image, one that is so specific and so tangible that once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it when you read those familiar verses again. Kava means to twist together, to braid, to take separate strands and wind them around each other under tension until what was many individual threads becomes a single cord of strength. The ancient picture behind this word is a rope maker, standing at his work, taking raw fiber that on its own is fragile and easily broken, and twisting it with deliberate, sustained pressure into something that can bear enormous weight. When the psalmist wrote kava on the Lord, he was not describing a person sitting on a bench watching the clock. He was describing a person in active, sustained, pressured engagement with God, with time, with the raw material of their own life, twisting it all together under the weight of what they were being asked to carry, until what emerged was a strength that no single strand of their experience could have produced alone. Now I want you to hear what I am actually saying to you. Every year of this waiting season, you have been the rope maker. Every strand of grief you picked up and did not throw away, every thread of faith you held on to when logic told you to let go, every fiber of hope you wound back into the cord when it had frayed almost to nothing. You were not wasting those years. You were not marking time. You were not failing to break through. You were braiding. You were building something under pressure that can only be built under pressure. Something that will not snap when the weight of what is coming is placed upon it, because the weight of what you carried during the making is what gave it the tensile strength to hold. This is why the waiting has been long. Not because heaven forgot the timeline, not because you did something wrong that pushed the answer further away, but because the cord being made from the raw material of your life required a specific number of twists to reach the strength it needed. And you, beloved chosen one, are in the final rotations. The rope maker does not twist the cord one turn more than necessary, but he does not stop one turn short of what the purpose requires. You are not delayed. You are being assembled. And now I want to bring you to the second concept, because Kava tells you what has been happening inside the making. But there is another ancient language of time that tells you where you are in the sequence. And this language speaks directly to the hour you are in right now. In the symbolic framework of Scripture, midnight is never simply a time on a clock. Midnight is a threshold. It is the precise point where one reality ends and another begins. But the transition is invisible to every human eye, because at midnight, the darkness is at its most complete. There is no light yet. There is no evidence yet. There is no dawn visible on any horizon. And yet, midnight in the language of heaven is not the place where hope goes to die. It is the place where heaven begins to move with the greatest concentration of purpose. Think about the passages you know. The earthquake at midnight that opened prison doors. The bridegroom arriving at midnight when the waiting had stretched past the point where waiting felt possible. The angel moving at midnight over Egypt, when the longest night in a generation was also the night that everything changed. Heaven has a pattern with midnight, and the pattern is this: the darkest moment, the moment that feels most like the end, the moment where the evidence for hope has been reduced to almost nothing. That is the moment heaven chooses to act, not despite the darkness, in it, through it, by means of it. And I want to ask you something honestly. Does what I just described sound like the season you are in? Does the darkness feel complete right now? Does the evidence feel thin? Does the waiting feel like it has stretched past the point where waiting is supposed to stretch? If the answer is yes, then I want you to hear this with every part of you that is still listening. You are not in the middle of your midnight. You are at the edge of it. The darkness you are experiencing right now is not the darkness of absence. It is the darkness of threshold. There is a difference between a night that is deepening into more darkness and a night that has reached its furthest point, is about to break. You cannot always tell the difference from inside the darkness. But I am telling you now, from a place of deep conviction, that what you are feeling, this particular quality of exhaustion, this specific texture of worn-through faith, this sense that you have arrived at the very limit of what you can carry, this is not the middle. This is the edge. At midnight, when everyone thought it was all over, heaven began to move. And here is what I want you to understand about the relationship between Kava and the midnight hour. Because these two concepts are not separate ideas sitting beside each other. They are two descriptions of the same reality seen from different angles. The rope maker does not stop twisting at midnight. The midnight hour is precisely the moment when the final twist is applied, when the tension is at its greatest, and when the cord reaches the strength it was always being built to carry. The darkness and the pressure are not two separate trials. They are the same moment. The completion of the making and the threshold of the breaking into dawn are happening simultaneously, and you are standing in the middle of both. This is the ancient language of sacred time, speaking directly into your present moment. What you have interpreted as the continuation of waiting is actually the completion of preparation. What feels like more of the same is actually the final rotation of the cord. What looks from the inside like an unbroken night is, from heaven's perspective, the last few seconds before the light. I want to give you something practical to do with this understanding, because ancient wisdom that stays only in the mind does not reach the places in you that need it most. The next time you find yourself awake at the edges of the night, when the quiet feels too loud and the waiting feels too long, I want you to say this quietly, in whatever language your spirit speaks most naturally. I am not in the middle of the dark. I am at the edge of it. What is being assembled in me is almost complete. The cord is almost finished. The night is almost done. I do not have to see the light yet to know that the light is coming, because midnight has never in the history of heaven been the final word. Let that become your declaration for this season, not a performance of faith you do not feel, not a forced positivity that pastes brightness over genuine pain, but an honest, anchored statement of where you actually are in the sequence, spoken by someone who has learned the language of sacred time well enough to read the hour correctly. Now, before I carry you forward into what is specifically and practically about to shift in your life, I want to mention something briefly. The genius wave, which Dr. James Rivers developed after over 30 years of research affiliated with MIT, uses precisely calibrated audio to guide your brain into the theta and gamma states, the very frequencies most active during moments of breakthrough insight and expanded spiritual clarity. If you are standing at the threshold of your midnight, your brain deserves to be operating at its clearest. 7 minutes a day. The link is in the pinned comment below, and it is there whenever you are ready for it. What I need you to carry into the next section is this. You are not a person who has been waiting. You are a cord that has been braided. You are not someone standing in darkness with no end in sight. You are someone standing at the threshold of a midnight that heaven has already decided is about to break. The language of your season has changed, even if your circumstances have not caught up yet. And the moment the language changes, the moment you begin to read the hour correctly, something shifts in the way you carry what you carry. The weight does not disappear immediately, but it begins to feel purposeful in a way it did not before. And purposeful weight is something a finished cord can bear. What God has ordained, delay cannot cancel. You have been assembled for this. And what comes next is the evidence of that assembly beginning to appear in the world around you, in 3 specific areas that I believe you have been watching and waiting for longer than almost anything else. Let us go there together now. Something has already begun to move. I do not want you to miss that. The ancient language we just walked through together was not poetry for its own sake. It was a map, and the map was telling you something specific. The cord is finished. The midnight is at its edge, and what has been assembled in the unseen is now beginning to press through into the visible. You may not have physical evidence of this yet. The circumstances around you may look identical to what they looked like 6 months ago. But there is a difference between a field where nothing is happening and a field where everything is happening underground. And I want to give you eyes to see which one you are actually standing in. There are 3 things that are moving towards you right now, and I want to name them with enough specificity that you stop looking for them in the wrong places. The first thing moving is a realignment in your relationships, and I want to be honest with you about what this realignment will feel like, because it will not feel entirely comfortable, at least not at first. Some of the people who have been close to you are going to begin to create distance, not because of conflict, not because of failure on either side, but because the season you are entering requires a different kind of companionship than the season you are leaving. This is not rejection. This is reconfiguration. Heaven is clearing the table so that the people who are assigned to your next chapter have a place to sit. And the people who are meant for your next chapter are not the people who knew you in your waiting. They are the people who are positioned to know you in your purpose. They carry a specific kind of energy, a clarity, a directness, a quiet confidence that will feel unfamiliar at first, precisely because you have not been surrounded by it before. When they appear, and they will appear, Do not second guess the speed of the connection. Chosen ones in the same season recognize each other quickly because they are responding to something deeper than personality. They are responding to assignment. The second thing moving is an answer to the question that has lived in you the longest. The question of what you are supposed to do, what the next step is, what direction the calling actually points toward in concrete, practical terms. I know this question has followed you. I know you have prayed it, journaled it, sat in silence with it, and sometimes thrown it at the ceiling in the middle of the night with more frustration than faith. I want to tell you that the answer to this question is not going to arrive the way you have been expecting it to arrive. It is not going to come as a full blueprint, a complete 5-year plan delivered in a moment of blinding clarity. It is going to come as one small step that presents itself with a piece that is disproportionate to its size. It will feel almost too simple, almost too obvious, and the temptation will be wait for something more dramatic, more complete, more proportional to the magnitude of what you have been believing for. Do not wait. Take the step that carries the piece. The rest of the blueprint reveals itself in motion, not in stillness. Heaven gives the next instruction to the person who has already moved on the last one. The third thing moving is in the area of resources and opportunities, and I want to reframe this category completely before I say anything else about it. Because the way most people think about resources keeps them in a posture that actually slows the arrival of what is coming. Most people in a season of lack spend enormous energy fighting for what they need, striving, positioning, maneuvering, exhausting themselves in the effort to secure what has not yet come. And I understand why. When resources have been thin for a long time, the instinct is to work harder at obtaining them. But what I want to say to you is this: the season of striving is ending. What is coming toward you now is not something you will have to fight for. It is something you will have to receive. There is a difference between a person who is chasing their provision and a person who has been positioned in the path of it. You have been doing the first thing for a long time. Heaven is now placing you in the position of the second thing. Opportunities are going to appear that you did not generate. Doors are going to open that you did not knock on. Resources are going to arrive through channels you did not construct. And reason this is going to feel unfamiliar is because it will not feel like something you earned in the ordinary sense. It is not. It is something you are due. There is a difference between earning and receiving what is due, and a chosen one who has walked the full length of the preparation road is not a beggar approaching a closed door. They are an heir walking into what was always theirs. Now I want to tell you what not to do during this period, because the 3 movements I just described can be disrupted, not by outside forces, but by the responses that chosen ones most commonly default to when things begin to shift. Do not explain the shift to people who are not assigned to your season. When the realignment begins in your relationships, when the small step appears with its disproportionate piece, when the unexpected door opens, resist the urge to narrate it to everyone around you. Not because you are being secretive, but because new growth requires a protected environment before it can withstand exposure. What is being born in your life right now is real, and it is significant. And significance in its earliest form is tender. Protect the tender thing. Do not go back to the striving posture the moment the first opportunity feels slow. The shift from striving to receiving is not a one-time event. It is a practice, and there will be moments in the early days of this new season where the old instinct to fight and push and force will rise up powerfully, because it is what you have known for a long time. When that happens, Return to the declaration from the last section. Return to the image of the rope maker. Return to the understanding that you are an heir, not a beggar. And let the posture of receiving be something you choose again, as many times as it takes, until it becomes the new default. Do not minimize what is coming by measuring it against what you lost. The relationships being restored will not be identical to the ones that drifted. They will be better. The purpose becoming clear will not look like the version you imagined in the early years. It will be larger. The resources arriving will not simply replace what was taken. They will exceed it. Do not shrink the incoming by comparing it to the outgoing. You can believe in anything because the God who called the meeting about your life does not restore to the previous level. He restores to the appointed level, and the appointed level was always beyond what the waiting season allowed you to see. Chosen ones do not simply receive what has been given to them. They carry it forward and multiply it. And every person who arrives at this message is part of something larger than any single waiting season could contain. If the ground shifting beneath your feet is something you can feel right now, press like as an act of choosing to be part of what is being built, and drop a word in the comments so that every other chosen one watching knows they are not in this room alone. Share this with someone who is still in the thick of their waiting and needs to know the ground is already moving. Stay at this table by subscribing, because what comes next belongs to you too. And if you feel moved to sow into the ground that grows something for the next person in line, the link is in the pinned comment below. Type the word receive in the comments if you can feel these 3 things beginning to move in your life. And now, because you know what is coming and you can feel the ground shifting, it is time to give you the name of who you are becoming on the other side of everything you have walked through. There is a sentence I want to speak over you before anything else in this section, and I want you to receive it not as an introduction to content, but as a declaration that belongs to you personally. You are not the same person who entered this waiting season. I need you to hear that clearly and completely, because one of the most subtle and damaging things that a long preparation does to a chosen one is convince them that nothing has changed, that all the years of holding on and pressing forward and choosing faith when the evidence was absent have left them in essentially the same place they started. That is not true. It has never been true. And one of the most important things I can do in this section is help you see the person you have actually become. Because the persons you have become is the person who is going to walk in everything that is coming next, and they deserve to be recognized before they take another step. The connection I want to draw from what we explored in part 6 is this. We talked about 3 areas that are shifting: connection, purpose, and provision. And underneath all 3 of those shifts is a single truth that makes them possible. The areas of your life are not shifting because your circumstances randomly decided to cooperate. They are shifting because you have been changed at a level deep enough to receive and steward what is coming. The outer world is reorganizing itself around an inner transformation that has already taken place, and that transformation has a name. I want to give you that name now. You are a cycle breaker. I want to take my time with this because I do not want you to hear this as a title that sounds impressive, but carries no weight in the actual texture of your daily life. A cycle breaker is something specific, something earned, something that has a precise meaning in the context of everything you have walked through. A cycle breaker is a person who, through their willingness to endure what others in their lineage could not endure, through their refusal to pass on what was passed to them, through their insistence on remaining faithful to a calling, that no one around them could fully see or validate, interrupts a generational pattern that would otherwise have continued indefinitely, not through force, not through confrontation, but through the quiet, sustained, extraordinarily costly decision to become something different from what their environment told them they were allowed to be. Think about what that has looked like in your life. The patterns you saw in the generations before you, the cycles of lack, of broken connection, of unfulfilled potential, of faith that never quite reached the promise it was pointed toward. You looked at those patterns and something in you, something deep and non-negotiable, and entirely unlike the path of least resistance, said no. Not with anger, not with judgment of those who came before you, but with a settled, quiet, immovable determination that this stops here, that what was handed to you would not be handed forward in the same condition it arrived. That decision, that singular interior decision, is what makes you a cycle breaker. And I want you to understand what it cost, because this is not a name that gets handed to people who had it easy. A cycle breaker pays a price that the people around them often cannot see or acknowledge, because the work of breaking a cycle is largely invisible. It happens in the interior. It happens in the choices that no one witnesses. It happens in the moments when the old pattern extended its invitation for the 100th time and you said no. For the 100th time when yes would have been so much easier. It happens in the nights when you had every justification to give up and you chose not to, not because you were feeling strong, because something in you knew that the breaking of the pattern required your persistence even when your persistence had nothing left to draw on but the bare thread of faithfulness. And here is what a cycle breaker carries that other people do not. Authority. Not positional authority. Not the kind that comes from a title or a platform or a credential. The kind of authority that comes from having walked through the specific territory that your assignment is designed to address. When a cycle breaker speaks into a life that is trapped in a pattern they themselves have broken, there is a weight to that speaking that cannot be manufactured or imitated. It comes from the road. It comes from the years. It comes from the scars that have become the very credential that qualifies you to reach the person who is standing where you used to stand. This is why the waiting was as long as it was. You were not simply being prepared to receive a better life for yourself, though that is coming, and it is real, and you deserve it fully. You were being prepared to carry something for others. The depth of your preparation is directly proportionate to the reach of your assignment, and a cycle breaker's assignment does not end with their own breakthrough. It extends forward into the lives of everyone who will look at what you have walked through and find in your story the evidence that the cycle can be broken, that the pattern does not have to continue, that the promise their own spirit has been carrying is not delusional but prophetic. I want to speak some specific blessings over you now, and I want to ask you to receive them not as performance but as intention, as words spoken deliberately over the person you have become. May the years that felt like they were taking from you be restored to you in a season of abundance that exceeds every calculation you have made about what was lost. May every relationship that drifted during your preparation be replaced with connections of such depth and rightness that the loneliness of the waiting becomes a distant memory rather than a defining wound. May the voice inside you that was quieted by years of being misunderstood find its full register in this new season, and may the words that come from that voice carry the authority of everything you have walked through to arrive at this moment. May the career, the calling, the creative work, the mission, whatever form your assignment takes in the world, open before you with a clarity and a momentum that makes the stalling of the previous season feel like the necessary runway it actually was. May the provision that has been held in reserve for this season arrive in ways that restore not just what was needed, but what was dreamed of. Because you were never meant to merely survive. You were meant to build something. May your body, which has carried the weight of this preparation in ways that go beyond the emotional and the spiritual into the very physical, find rest and restoration and a vitality that surprises you. May you sleep deeply and wake with a sense of purpose that makes the mornings different from what they have been. May the anxiety that has been your unwanted companion in the long nights lose its grip on you as the evidence of movement begins to accumulate in your life. May the people who come after you, your children, biological or spiritual, the ones who will look at your life as a reference point for what is possible, may they inherit from you, not the patterns that were handed to you, but the broken version of those patterns, the freedom that your faithfulness purchased, the open road that your courage cleared. May they never know the specific weight you carried because you carried it so that they would not have to. And may you, cycle breaker, in the fullness of what is coming, never forget the road that made you. Not because you are meant to live in the past, but because the road is the credential, and the credential is the gift, and the gift is not for you alone. It belongs to everyone who will one day need to hear that someone walked this path before them and came through it, not just intact, but transformed into something that the waiting itself could not have produced any other way. You are a cycle breaker. That is not a consolation prize for a long journey. That is the name of the person heaven designed, the person the preparation was always building toward, the person who is now standing at the threshold of a season that the waiting was never separate from, but was always, in every moment, working toward. Carry that name gently. Carry it with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly what it cost and exactly what it means. And carry it forward, because there is someone whose cycle is waiting for a cycle breaker to arrive, and you are the one who is coming. What remains now is practical. We have named who you are, and we have named what is shifting. What I want to give you next is the specific, tangible, on-the-ground picture of what those shifts are going to look like in 3 concrete areas of your daily life. Because a cycle breaker does not only need to know who they are in the spirit, they need to know what to do with their hands when the new season opens the door. A cycle breaker does not wait to be told twice. And so what I want to give you in this section is not more preparation for what is coming, but the practical, grounded, immediate picture of what to do with your hands and your heart and your attention right now, in this specific window of time, as the shift we have been describing begins to make itself visible in the material world of your daily life. Because here is what I have observed in the lives of chosen ones who have arrived at exactly this threshold. The moment the season begins to turn, there is a temptation to continue operating with the posture of the waiting season, to remain braced, to remain cautious, to remain in the defensive crouch that kept you protected during the years when the ground was uncertain. That posture served you then. It was wise then. But if you carry it into the activation season, it will work against you. Because the activation season requires a different posture entirely. It requires open hands instead of clenched ones. It requires forward lean instead of protective retreat. It requires the willingness to receive what is coming rather than the habit of guarding against what might be taken. So let me be specific about what the next season looks like in 3 areas and what your practical response to each one should be. The first area is relationships, and here is exactly what you should expect and exactly what you should do. In the coming weeks and months, You are going to notice a natural thinning of certain connections. People who were present in the waiting season, people you are genuinely grateful for, will begin to occupy less space in your daily life. Some of this will be their choice. Some of it will be yours. Some of it will simply be the organic result of two people moving different directions without anyone being wrong. I want you to allow this thinning without guilt and without the frantic energy of trying to hold everything in place. Not every person who walked with you through the preparation is assigned to walk with you through the activation. That is not a failure of relationship. That is the natural graduation that happens when a season completes itself. At the same time, new people are going to appear. And here is the practical thing I want you to do when they appear. Do not test them with the guardedness you developed during the years of being misunderstood. Give them the chance to show you who they are before you decide whether they are safe. The protection that kept you intact during the waiting season was appropriate for that season. But if you apply the same level of guardedness to the new connections that are coming, you will inadvertently keep out the very people who were sent to walk beside you in what is next. The practical action is this. When someone new appears and something in you registers a sense of rightness, a sense of recognition, honor that registration. Lean toward it rather than away from it. Let it develop at a pace that feels natural rather than shutting it down before it has the chance to show you what it is. What you will find is that the new connections in this season arrive with a different quality than the connections of the previous season. There will be less performance required, less explanation needed, less energy spent on being understood. The right people for the next chapter will understand you in ways that feel almost familiar, as though you have known each other longer than the calendar suggests. Trust that familiarity. It is not naivety. It is discernment recognizing assignment. The second area is purpose, and I want to be as concrete here as I possibly can, because this is the area where chosen ones most often stall even after the season has begun to open. The practical action for this area is deceptively simple, and I want you to resist the temptation to dismiss it because of its simplicity. Take the smallest possible step in the direction of the thing you have been sensing. Not the full leap, not the complete overhaul of your life. The smallest possible step. If the calling involves writing, write 1 page today, not a chapter, not a book proposal. 1 page. If the calling involves a conversation you have been putting off, make the call today, not tomorrow, today. If the calling involves creating something, learning something, building something, do the smallest unit of that thing that you can do with what you have right now, in the space you currently occupy, with the resources currently available to you. This matters for a reason that is both practical and spiritual. The activation of a new season is always initiated by movement, not by readiness. You will never feel fully ready. Readiness, in the way most people imagine it, is a feeling that does not arrive before you begin. It arrives in the act of beginning. The cycle breaker who waits to feel ready before taking the first step will wait indefinitely, because the feeling of readiness is generated by movement, not preceded by it. Take the step. The readiness will meet you on the road. And here is what I want you to watch for as you begin to move. Pay attention to what flows and what resists. In the activation season, movement in the right direction carries a quality of ease that is distinct from the grinding effort of the waiting season. This does not mean the work will be without challenge. It means that the fundamental bell current of your life will be moving with you rather than against you. When something flows, lean into it. When something resists consistently, not just once, but with a persistent structural resistance, take that as information. Not every open door in this season is your door. And the discernment to know the difference between a door that requires effort and a door that is simply not yours will be one of the most important skills you develop in the activation. The third area is resources and provision, and I want to speak about the practical dimension of this with the same honesty I brought to the acknowledgement of what the waiting cost you. The practical action for this area is to stop fighting for what is yours and start positioning yourself to receive it. Those are two very different stances. Fighting for provision looks like striving, like forcing, like trying to make things happen through sheer effort and willpower in directions that are not opening naturally. Positioning for provision looks like being present, prepared, and available in the spaces where what is coming is most likely to arrive. Concretely, this means updating the thing that represents you professionally or creatively, whether that is a portfolio, a profile, a conversation, a relationship that has been dormant. It means saying yes to the invitation that feels slightly too large for where you currently see yourself, because in the activation season, your assignment will consistently outpace your current self-perception, and the gap between those two things is where growth lives. It means releasing the financial posture of scarcity, not by pretending the scarcity is not real, but by making decisions from the identity of a cycle breaker who is in a harvest season rather than the identity of a person in survival mode. No more fighting. No more striving against closed doors. What belongs to you in this season is going to find you with a directness that will surprise you, but only if you are standing in the open rather than hiding behind the protective walls that the waiting season taught you to build. You have the name. You have the practical direction. Now let me bring you to the final stretch of this message, where I want to give you something to carry when you walk away from these words, something that belongs to you long after the sound of this voice fades. I want to take a moment before anything else to simply acknowledge that you are still here. That might sound like a small thing, but I do not mean it as a small thing. You started this message carrying something heavy, and you have stayed through every section, through the naming of your pain, through the honest accounting of what the waiting has cost you, through the ancient language of sacred time, through the practical picture of what is shifting and what your role looks like inside that shift. You have stayed, and the staying itself is a form of courage that I do not want to pass over without honoring. Chosen ones who are in the final stretch of their preparation do not always stay. Sometimes the weight of the journey makes even the act of receiving feel like too much. Sometimes a person has been carrying something so long that sitting still long enough to let truth land feels more vulnerable than they are ready for. You stayed. You let it land, and that matters more than you may realize right now, because the capacity to receive is the very capacity that the new season is going to require of you most, and you have just been practicing it for the length of this entire message. I want to carry you now to a practice, a final exercise before we close, and I want to ask you to do this not as a symbolic gesture, but as a genuine interior act. Because I believe that what you carry out of this message matters, and I also believe that there are things you have been carrying into this message that you were never meant to take with you beyond this threshold. I want you to imagine, wherever you are right now, whatever your physical surroundings look like, I want you to imagine door. It does not need to be elaborate. It can be simple, wooden, weathered in the way that things are weathered by long exposure to weather. They were built to withstand. This doorway stands between the season you have been in and the season you are entering, and at the base of that doorway, there is a threshold, a strip of worn wood or stone that marks the exact boundary between what was and what is coming. I want you to see yourself standing just on the other side of that doorway in the new season, with your hands open and your face forward. And now I want you to see, gathered at your feet on this side of the threshold, every heavy thing you have been carrying. The grief of the years that felt wasted, the weight of the relationships that drifted, the ache of the dreams you stopped saying out loud, the fatigue of the long nights and the unanswered prayers, and the faith that kept choosing to hold on when everything in your circumstances said, let go. The shame that attached itself to the waiting, the quiet fear that the delay was somehow your fault, that you were the reason the promise had not yet arrived. See all of it gathered there at the threshold. And now I want you to do something that is simple in instruction and profound in practice. Leave it there, not because it was not real, not because the pain did not matter, not because the years were not genuinely hard. Leave it there because you were never meant to carry it into the next chapter. The preparation required you to hold it on the road. The new season does not. What happened in the wilderness was necessary for the wilderness. What you are walking into now has different requirements, and the primary requirement is not the strength to endure, but the openness to receive. You cannot hold what is coming with hands that are still gripping what is past. Leave the heaviness at the threshold. Step forward with open hands, and let the person you have become, the cycle breaker, the assembled cord, the chosen one, standing at the edge of their midnight, let that person walk through the doorway unencumbered by the weight of what made them who they are, even while they carry the wisdom and the authority that the weight produced. Something real was built in this space today. In the distance between my voice and your heart, in the silence where your spirit received what your mind was still processing, something was constructed that belongs to both of us now. It cannot be taken back. It cannot be undone. Whatever you carried when you arrived, you are not the same person who pressed play at the beginning of this message. That is not sentiment. That is the actual work of what happened here. If this message found you today, if something that was said landed in a space that needed it, I want to gently invite you to press like, not as a favor to this channel, but as a way of saying yes to what you felt without needing to explain it in words. Let that small act be your way of acknowledging to yourself that something real happened here. And if you want to leave something in the comments, a word, a sentence, whatever is sitting on the surface of your heart right now, please do, because every chosen one who finds this message after you deserves to arrive and discover that they are not the first one here, that others came before them and left a mark that says I was here and I did not leave unchanged. Share this with one person who needs it, not because you have to, but because the most natural thing a cycle breaker does after receiving something is look around for the person who needs it next. Stay with this community by subscribing, not as a platform decision, but as a chosen one saying, I belong to this conversation and I intend to remain in it. And if you feel moved to pass something forward through the donation link in the pinned comment below, do so only if it rises from a place of genuine desire to extend what you received today to the next person who arrives here needing it. There is no pressure and no expectation. Only an open hand if you choose to place something in it. Now I want to close this section with one final mention of something that I believe belongs in your daily practice as you step into what is coming. The Genius Wave, developed by Dr. James Rivers after over 30 years of research affiliated with MIT, is a 7-minute audio experience that restores the gamma and theta brainwave states that are the natural frequency of a chosen one. We have talked throughout this message about what those frequencies mean, about what gets suppressed during long Seasons of waiting, about what becomes accessible again when the brain is returned to its highest functional state. You have been walking toward your activation. Let your brain be fully online for it. 7 minutes a day. That is the entirety of what is being asked. If the genius wave met you somewhere in the middle of this message and you know it is a yes, it is waiting for you in the pinned comment below. And now I want to speak to you one more time before the final blessing, because there is something I need you to carry with you when you walk away from this message. Something that I believe is the most important single thing I have said in any section. And it is this: you did not find this message. This message found you. And the God who made sure it found you, the same God who called a meeting in heaven about your life before you pressed play, that God does not send a message of this specificity to a person who is not on the verge of something. Heaven does not waste precise words on vague situations. The precision of what you have heard today, the way certain things landed, the way certain sections found the exact tender place inside you, that precision is itself the confirmation. You are not almost ready. You are not almost right for what is coming. You are the person. This is the season. And the God who assembled you through every hard year of this preparation is the same God who is standing on the other side of the threshold you just crossed. Not waiting for you to prove yourself further, but ready to walk with you into everything that the waiting was always pointed toward. All across the world right now, other chosen ones are sitting with this same message, arriving at this same threshold, leaving the same heaviness at the same doorway, and stepping forward into the same new season. You are not alone in this. You have never been alone in this. The community of chosen ones waking up in this hour is larger than any single waiting season, larger than any individual story. And you are part of it, not on the edges but at the center, not as an observer but as a participant in something that heaven designed long before you understood what you were being designed for. Walk through the door. The season has changed. The chord is finished. The midnight is over, and everything that the rope maker built in you during the long years of the making is exactly the right strength for everything that is waiting on the other side. Go, you are ready. Heaven already knew it before you did. You made it here, not by accident, not by algorithm, not by the random collision of a free afternoon and an auto-playing video. You made it here because your name was spoken in a room you cannot see. And everything that brought you to this moment, every detour, every delay, every night that stretched longer than you thought you could survive, was moving you toward exactly this place. I want to speak one last thing over you before you go. And I want you to receive it not with your mind, but with the part of you that has been listening underneath all the words, the part that recognized itself in every sign that was named, the part that felt the cord tightening in the description of Kava, the part that stood at the edge of the midnight and felt, perhaps for the first time in a long time, that the edge was real and the dawn was not a metaphor. You are not the same person who pressed play at the beginning of this message. Something has shifted, quietly and permanently, in the way you understand the season you are in. The circumstances around you may not have changed yet. The bank account may look the same. The relationship may still be unresolved. The career may still feel stalled. But the interior landscape has changed, and interior change always precedes exterior transformation. Always, without exception. Heaven works from the inside out, and what has been planted in you today is not a feeling that will fade by morning. It is a seed of accurate understanding, and accurate understanding, once received, does not go back to being confusion. So, I want to bless you now, not with grand language or performed emotion, but with the quiet, specific personal blessing of someone who has sat with you through the full length of this message and knows something about who you are. May the years that felt wasted begin to reveal their purpose, one layer at a time, in a pace gentle enough that you can receive each revelation without being overwhelmed by it. May the relationships that are meant for your next season find you with a speed and an ease that surprises you, and may the recognition between you and the people assigned to your purpose be immediate and unmistakable. May the small step that carries disproportionate peace present itself to you clearly, and may you have the courage to take it without waiting for the full blueprint, trusting that the rest reveals itself in the moving. May the resources and opportunities that are already in motion towards you arrive with a generosity that exceeds what you lost, and may you receive them with open hands rather than the closed fists of someone who has been fighting for too long. May the frequency that makes you who you are, the gamma of the chosen one, the theta of the deep creative, be fully restored in you, and may your brain and your spirit operate together at the level they were always designed to reach. May every night that still comes before the full dawn of your breakthrough be shorter than the last, and may the darkness, when it visits, feel less like a permanent address and more like the final seconds of a midnight that has already decided to end. And may you carry the name you were given in this message, not as a title to perform, but as a truth to inhabit, quietly and with increasing confidence, in every room you enter from this day forward. You are chosen. You were chosen before you understood what that meant. You were chosen through every season that seemed to argue against it. You are chosen now, standing at the threshold of what heaven has been preparing with more care and more precision than you have yet been allowed to fully see. Go gently. Go with faith that is no longer borrowed from other people's testimonies, but rooted in the specific, personal, documented faithfulness of a God who called a meeting about your life and made sure this message found you today. The waiting is not your story. It is only the chapter that made you strong enough to carry what comes next. And what comes next is everything.